Hey everyone, if you want to make your own podcast but you don't know where to begin, Spotify for Podcasters makes it super easy. They've got everything in one place, it's totally free, and you can make money while doing it. Here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start doing it today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and pretty much everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also supported, and you can even conduct polls and Q&As. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, the platform is totally free. No catch, totally free. When I wanted to start my own podcast, I did not know where to begin, and I didn't think it was even possible. And Spotify for Podcasters made it happen. They made it easy, they made it quick, and I am doing something that I love. What more can I ask for? So if you're interested in starting your own show, you can do it, and I highly recommend you give this a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Everything Kratom, the podcast about anything and everything Kratom. Great to have you with us here on this Wednesday morning. Hoping all is well out there with you. So today, I had one plan last night about what I was going to talk about today, and then it changed as I looked at some questions that people sent along to me. And I got 3 different people last night in different ways, either through voice message or through direct message, who asked me to go over a little bit more about my personal relationship with Kratom, how I first discovered it, things like that. And, I went over that in the first episode, but, listening back, I'm like, wow, I had no idea how to do this. I mean, I knew that. I was quite open and honest about that. That's the first thing I said on this podcast is I have no right to do a podcast. I'm completely new to this. But, after doing 100 and however many episodes we've done, I kind of feel like I get the hang of it, a little bit more than when I first started. So I am totally open to going into a little bit more about myself today, and also maybe just like doing the first episode a little bit better. That's kind of my goal today. So this is kind of my second intro to how I came across Kratom. So here we go. See if I can do it a bit better this time. So growing up, my childhood was great, fine and dandy, nothing to see there. Grew up in Western New York State and from a rural area, had a few really good friends and one older brother and 2 parents, and 2 dogs and middle class life, nothing to complain about. So grew up great. I had a little bit of issue though with my brother. He had some sort of he was the nicest person on earth, but also he had some sort of chemical imbalance that also made it so that sometimes he got very angry. He was also bipolar and bit manic, and he would get very mad and throw things and get into arguments, and it was very tough on my parents. But I guess it was also very tough on me, and I don't think about it often that much, but this is actually all related to Kratom, so believe it or not, it is. My mom has the theory that I started having Tourette's tics, the way that I move my head and my neck and my arms. I started getting Tourette's tics in middle school, she thinks, because of being around this yelling and fighting and, my brother going crazy. She thinks that it kind of traumatized me a little bit and that I started ticking because of that. I don't know if it's true, but I think that it's interesting that that's her feeling about it. And it does align time-wise with when it was getting bad, with my brother having issues, and then when I started exhibiting signs of mild Tourette's. So that's something to think about. And that's ultimately what led me to finding Kratom years later. So that's how it's related. I started exhibiting those signs in middle school. I couldn't really control my head movements sometimes, but it wasn't bad. And I didn't have any vocal tics, which is why I was never officially diagnosed with Tourette's, because I think you have to, I think you officially have to have a vocal tic for it to be Tourette's. But I don't know what else to call it, so I'm just going to call it that. So it was driving me nuts, and it would go on and off for a number of years. Then, towards the end of high school, I really was getting sick of, having these tics. I also was starting to have anxiety. And I would call it depression, but honestly, looking back, it's so hard for me to say that because I'm like, there was nothing wrong with your life. What the heck? I mean, looking back, I just want to shake myself and be like, why the heck are you sad right now? Just snap out of it, live life. Anyway, so those were the things that were going on with me. I started experimenting with, I'd go to the doctor and they'd prescribe me something for it. And for this or for that, and nothing worked. And I think it's because I didn't need pills. And I didn't know that at the time. So I tried these different things, and some of them made it worse. My tics got worse, or my tics got better, but I kind of felt more like a robot. And it was just balancing those things out. And I was like a lab experiment for a few years. Cue my first year of college. I am going down to the fire at my school. There's a river at college. I went to college at Green Mountain College in Vermont, which closed a couple years ago, just before the pandemic. But it was a great school. I loved it there. And there was a river that ran through, the side of campus, and a place where we'd all go down and have fires. And there would be a fire every night. It was so much fun. One night I'm going down to the fire, my first year of school. It's about 1 month into my freshman year. And my friend, who he was into a number of drugs, but he was one of those people where it just went in and you never saw them change. Like, you didn't know what drug they were on because they acted the same. He introduced me to Kratom, and he gave me 2 of these capsules, of which I later found out was green Bali. Green Bali was the first Kratom I ever had. 2 capsules of green Bali. And he also gave me this lemon Blue Lotus shot. And I've talked about Blue Lotus a lot before in this show, but Blue Lotus is this lily, this flower. It's a very pretty flower from Southeast Asia, and there's a lot of history of usage with it, especially in ancient Egypt. It's really cool. You should look into the history of it. But Blue Lotus is a great, it syncs so well with Kratom. I love it. I'm always talking about it. You guys probably want me to shut up about it at this point. But anyway, so he gave me 2 capsules of green Bali and a lemon lotus shot. And I took those at the fire. Didn't think much of it, didn't feel anything, went back to my bed that night, and I went to lay down in my bed, and I felt the most wonderful sense of relaxation, warmth, and my tics were gone. I realized I hadn't been ticking for hours, and you have to realize, that was a really big thing for me, because to all of a sudden not be dealing with this issue, and to have your life be so normal and you don't feel like you're on the influence of anything, to the point where you weren't even thinking about the fact that you were acting normal for a change for 2 hours. And then you lay down in bed and you're like, wait a second, I've been a human for 2 hours. I haven't done anything that I don't want to do. My head isn't moving against my will. And I didn't even know it because I didn't feel anything. That was my introduction to Kratom. And it profoundly impacted my life because, I've never been able to get anything else or find anything else, natural or pharmaceutical, that has done a better job of controlling my Tourette's, or whatever you want to call it. And, a number of other issues depression. I don't think Kratom helped me with my depression. I think I got out of that on my own, and, somewhat proud to say that, but not that there was much wrong with my life. That's a whole other story, me, whatever. But anyway, I don't think that it was for the depression, but it was for the anxiety, and it was for the head movements. I don't meet many people who use it for that, which is also interesting. So I'd be interested to hear if anybody out there uses it to control symptoms of Tourette's. I mean, please tell me, because that would be fascinating. I'd love to talk to you about that. Sipping my tea here. So that was my intro to Kratom, and basically for the next 10 years I slowly discovered different types of Kratom. I think I had a few years lapse between the first few times I tried Kratom and then when I really started using it in a strategic way. And when I started using it in a strategic way, you know, maybe let's say it's like 2014 or 2015 that I started to do that, I realized the true potential of it. Not just that, you know, you can use it to help control the tics that I was dealing with or whatever, but, you know, also, like, there are different types. Like, I didn't realize there were different types of Kratom, different ways of drying it, different ways of fermenting it, different effects, you know, like all of that. Red, green, white, I had no idea. No idea. So I started realizing that in 2015, 2014, 2015, 2016. And then, of course, the Kratom ban, proposed Kratom ban from the DEA happens. And that is the spark, right? Like, that was the spark for me when I realized, wow, I have discovered this thing that is so helpful to me. And I keep talking to my parents about it, and they're so impressed and happy that I'm not taking pharmaceutical drugs that, you know, we don't really know much about. Like, I'm not taking these beta blockers that are putting up walls in my brain so that signals don't fire and cause my head to move, because that's like, it felt really weird to take beta blockers. But Kratom, I didn't even feel it, right? Like, I didn't even feel like I took anything, and like my tics have gone away. So I've been spending years talking about this. They were so excited that I'd found it. And now, here it is. It's about to be banned in 30 days. It was surreal. It was such a firing up moment, and I'm sure it was for a lot of people out there. So for me, that is the spark that made me feel like, okay, I'm a part of a community that most people don't know about right now. And that was really neat. I never knew it until then. And after that, I started following the news about Kratom. When Kratom was, you know, when that proposed ban was lifted before it went into effect, I was ecstatic. And it was such a big deal. And I just remember seeing the New York Times, one of the front page articles was just all of these stories about people from all over the country talking about how Kratom impacted their lives. And it was lawyers and doctors and firemen and nurses and waiters and janitors and Army and Navy and Marines and, you know, government officials and addicts and homeless people. And it was like literally pick and choose anybody from any part of society, and they were one of the stories, you know? So I got pumped, and from then on, I was sold. And so ever since then, I have been part of a Kratom community and have been slowly watching people start to understand what it is. None of my friends knew about Kratom at the time when that ban took place, or was going to take place, mind you. And, you know, fast forward to today, and it's like, I'll talk to a friend, they're like, oh yeah, I went to a kava bar the other day and tried Kratom, or yeah, I've heard about Kratom, or yeah, you know, it doesn't work for me, or it does. But it's like, it's starting to get out there, you know? So that's kind of my Kratom journey in a nutshell. That's kind of the abbreviated version, but I don't think you need to hear a long, drawn out, you know, story of me talking about my history with Kratom. So I think that should probably do it. But yeah, you know, so that's kind of getting into it. And of course, you know, I've talked about all of my favorite varieties so far, but I'm really still quite new to Kratom. I feel like my journey is still just starting. Every time I talk with someone, I'm learning something new, whether it be the positives or the negatives. But overall, I think that it's a really important plant. And just like anything else, I think that one might be able to abuse it and might be able to, you know, have negative things result from using it if they're not responsible. But I think with responsible use, this thing is incredible. And I don't think that we should take it for granted at all. And I know that I don't, because it became such a pillar of my life without being the focus of my life, which I think is important, that when that proposed ban was announced, I was like, oh my God, I am dependent on this thing. Not physically dependent, although, you know, like I was dependent on it because I didn't want to go back to having physical Tourette-like tics happening all the time. And I wasn't using it to get high or anything. So like in that way, sure, I was dependent on it to not have Tourette's. To that level, sure, I was dependent on it and continue to be to this day. You know, honestly, I wonder what my life would be without Kratom, because, and I don't say that lightly. It might sound like a cliche type of thing to say, but I'm really like, this is a natural episode, as all of them are. I'm just kind of talking. It's to think back on it now. It's interesting for me to think about how I'm in a job, you know, where you got to dress up nice and you're going to be in front of people. You have to make presentations, all of this. I never thought I was going to do that. You know, I thought I was going to end up being like an archaeologist digging in the dirt, which I still one day would love to do. But, you know, I went for sociology, anthropology in school, but I, you know, never thought I'd be in a job like this. And I never thought I'd do well in a job like this, but I'm doing pretty well. And I am in a job like this. And it takes, I think it would have been a lot tougher to get into this career path if I had not discovered Kratom, because my anxiety level would be a lot higher. It would be a lot tougher to get into this career if I was too anxious or scared to start. And also, I would be too self-conscious, you know, like to sit in a meeting and have my head ticking all over the place. That would just not be a fun day. So I have a lot to owe to Kratom, and I'm really, really thankful to have all you here with me on the journey. And loving life. Very, very glad to be here, and glad that this podcast is really making some headway. I mean, you guys, we've done something here. We have done it. It is working. This is on like every platform now, and there's a very constant base of listenership. Thank you all so much. I'm so glad you check in all the time with me. And, you know, finally, just to say, I know that there are a couple other, you know, one or two other shows out there about Kratom. You definitely should check them out because they're different. They've been around longer than me, of course. They go into some deep topics. They do some deep dive conversations. And, you know, I do those once in a while, but, you know, the purpose of this podcast, I was trying to fill a niche. I don't want to compete with another one. So I want to support those other ones, and you should too. The reason why I created this one is because, you know, for everything Kratom, is because I didn't see a daily podcast out there about Kratom. I don't think there is one other than everything Kratom now, because I just wanted every morning to feel like I was part of a community and to be able to check in, even if it's for a 5-minute snippet of just like, hey, I tried this today, you know, and it's going well. Or, hey, I tried this today and I think I'm going to do it differently next time. I just want to keep the contact, you know? So let's keep on keeping on. Let's keep the contact. Let's keep this going every day, every weekday, and for the foreseeable future. So thanks so much, everybody. You all are great. Also, check out in the description of this podcast and every single episode, you can always find that link to Eat the Natural Botanicals and get a discount off of their Kratom products with the coupon code EverythingKratom. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. You all rock, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.